Imagine a world without fire. No warmth in the night. No protection from predators. No cooked food to give strength. Only raw roots, bitter fruits, and flesh torn with stone. This was the world of our earliest ancestors. A place of shadows, fear, and survival. And yet from this endless night, humanity would one day rise. But before fire came, there was only the darkness. Scene 1. The endless night. The sun slips beyond the horizon. Darkness spreads across the ancient African savanna. For the first humans, this was the most dangerous time of all. The air grows colder with every passing moment. The grass rustles with movement. Eyes, dozens of them, glow faintly in the blackness. Lions, hyenas, leopards, creatures stronger, faster, and deadlier than the fragile hominids who huddled together in silence. Our ancestors had no fire to keep them safe, no glowing flames to push predators away. Meat, when it could be scavenged, was eaten raw, its taste sharp, bloody, and filled with unseen dangers. Parasites and sickness often followed, and yet hunger drove them again and again to chew on tough sinew and raw flesh, while predators circled nearby, eager to claim the kill for themselves. They had not yet mastered flame, and so food was life and danger at once. Scene 4. The fear of predators. Night was ruled by predators. The lions roar, the hyenas laugh, the leopards silence. For humans, the world was not theirs. It belonged to the hunters. Our ancestors were the hunted. They lived not at the center of power, but at its edges. Each day they searched for food in the daylight. Each night they prayed the shadows would not find them. They were not kings of the earth, not yet. Scene 5. Glimpses of fire in the distance. And yet, across the horizon, sometimes they saw it. A glow, a flicker, the fire of the sky, lightning striking a dry tree, or fire born of destruction, a savanna burning after drought. From a distance humans watched in awe. The flames devoured everything, unstoppable and wild. Animals fled in terror as the fire roared through the grasses. To humans it was something almost alive, beautiful and deadly. They feared it, yet felt a strange pull. They did not know yet that one day they would tame this beast, and in doing so, they would step onto the path of becoming human. Scene 6. The endless struggle. Without fire, life was short. Injury was death. Cold nights drained strength. They saw the way fire spread after lightning strikes. They noticed the warmth it gave, the way it drove predators away. And in their minds, a question began to take shape. What if this fire could be ours? It was not yet reality, but it was the spark of an idea. an idea that would one day set the world alight. Cinematic outro hook. Before fire, humanity lived as prey, fragile, afraid, and cold. But curiosity was growing. A hunger not just for food, but for power. And soon, the darkness would meet its match. In Part 2, the first spark. Witness the moment early humans touched fire for the very first time, and how it changed everything. It began not with mastery, but with fear. The first time humans touched fire, they did not create it. They stole it. From the burning savannas, from the trees split open by lightning, from the chaos of destruction itself. And in their trembling hands, the world would change forever. Scene 1. The storm that brought fire. The sky was alive with thunder. Lightning tore across the clouds, striking the earth with violent fury. A tree burst into flame. At once, the night was lit with a furious glow, and the savanna trembled with sound, animals running, birds screaming, the grass itself catching fire. For most creatures, this was terror. But for humans, it was something more. They crept closer, terrified, but entranced. The fire roared, casting shadows on their faces, painting their eyes with light they had never known. Scene 2. The stolen flame. One among them, braver or more desperate than the rest, moved forward. He found a branch, already burning at one end, fallen from the tree. He lifted it with shaking hands. Scene 3. The terror of fire's wrath. At first, fire was as much an enemy as it was a gift. The burning branch would die quickly unless fed. The humans tried, fumbling with dry grass, twigs, leaves. Sometimes the fire roared back to life, other times it died in smoke and ash. When it spread too far, it burned their hands. When it caught their shelters, it devoured everything. They learned the hard way that fire could not be fully trusted. Some fled from it in fear. Some bore scars from trying to hold it too close. But still, the curiosity grew. Scene 4. The Night of Predators. That same night, the fire revealed its true power. The humans huddled around their flickering branch. Beyond the glow, predators circled. The eyes of lions glinted in the dark, hungry, waiting. But this time, they did not approach. The beasts paced uncertain, growling in frustration. The humans, for the first time in countless ages, felt a fragile sense of safety. They had discovered something greater than strength. They had found a weapon that even lions feared. Scene 5. Lessons of Flame. Night after night, they returned to the fire. They learned which wood burned long and which smoked too much. They learned to shield it from rain, to protect its embers beneath stone. They carried glowing branches across the land, learning how to keep fire alive even when the world was cold and wet. The fire was no longer just something they feared, it became something they needed. But need carried danger. If the fire died, the darkness returned. If they lost it, they were once again prey. So they became guardians of flame, carriers of light. Scene 6. Fire and food. It began with an accident. A piece of meat, scavenged from a predator's kill, fell into the embers. The flesh sizzled, smoke rising. The smell was unlike anything before, rich, sharp, mouth-watering. Cautiously, they tasted it. It was softer, easier to chew. It filled them with warmth, strength. Cooking had been discovered. From that day, food was no longer just survival. It was nourishment, power, transformation. The fire did not only change the night, it changed the very body of humanity. Scene 7. Fire as storyteller. At night, humans gathered around the glow. For the first time, they could sit awake in the dark without fear. They could speak, gesture, share memories of the day, dreams of tomorrow. Around the fire, Language grew. Stories were born. A new kind of survival, one of knowledge, culture, connection. The fire did more than burn wood. It ignited the human spirit. Cinematic outro hook. The first spark was not invention. It was discovery. A fragile flame, stolen from the sky, nurtured by trembling hands. But from that moment, humanity had changed. The night no longer belonged only to predators. The darkness was no longer absolute. In Part 3, The Masters of Flame, see how humans learned to create fire for themselves, and how this power reshaped the world forever. They had carried fire, they had stolen it, they had lived in its glow. But one truth haunted them: they did not control it. If the fire died, they were helpless again, until one day, a human struck the earth, and the spark was born. Scene 1. The Fragile Reliance. For generations, fire was a gift that had to be stolen. Every storm, every burning tree, every wildfire across the savannah became an opportunity. When lightning struck, humans ran to salvage what they could. They carried branches across miles, clinging to embers that could die at any moment. It was life, but it was fragile. A single rainstorm could end everything. And so, humans began to dream. What if fire could be made, not just found? Scene 2. The First Sparks. It began with curiosity, stone against stone. One sharp strike, and a faint glimmer danced in the shadows. Not flame, but something. Tiny, fleeting, almost invisible. The spark, dry grass, brittle leaves, the shavings of wood, all became the canvas for this discovery. At first, the sparks died quickly, leaving only smoke and frustration. But persistence turned failure into mastery. One day at last the spark caught. The grass smoldered, smoke curled upward. And then, flame. The first man-made fire. Scene 3. The firekeepers become firemakers. The moment was sacred. They no longer needed to wait for storms or fear the loss of flame. They had learned to create it themselves. Firekeepers became firemakers. And with this, the balance of power on Earth shifted forever. No longer prey, they became something more. Predators feared their glow. The night trembled before them, and humanity had found its greatest ally. Scene 4. Fire as a weapon. Now fire was more than warmth. It became a tool of war. Grasslands were set ablaze to drive animals into waiting hunters' traps. Predators were warded off with burning branches. The great beasts of the ancient world, giant cats, snakes, hyenas, hesitated before this new weapon. Fire was the shield and the sword. For the first time, humans were no longer just part of the food chain. They had begun to rise above it. Scene 5. Fire shapes the body. With fire came cooking. Meat grew softer. Roots, once poisonous, became safe to eat. Nutrients unlocked in ways raw food never allowed. Brains grew larger. Bodies became stronger. Fire did not just protect humanity, it reshaped it from the inside out. Around the flames, the human body itself was reborn. Scene 6. Fire shapes the mind. But it was more than flesh. It was spirit. The fire gave light when the sun was gone. It stretched the day, granting hours of thought, speech, and imagination. Around the fire, humans painted the first pictures on cave walls. They sang the first songs. They told the first myths, the origins of gods, of spirits, of the universe itself. The fire became the heart of culture. The hearth was not only survival, it was civilization. Scene 7. Fire and the tribe. With fire came unity. No longer scattered and vulnerable, humans gathered around shared flames. Tribes formed, communities thrived. Leadership, rituals, and traditions were born. The fire was more than a tool, it was a bond. And in this bond, humanity found its true strength. Each other. Scene 8. The endless flame. To the early humans, the ability to make fire felt like magic. Striking stone upon stone was not just skill, it was power, mystery, even religion. Some tribes saw fire as a gift from the sky, others as the spirit of ancestors watching over them. The flame became sacred, and so long as the fire burned, so did humanity's hope. Outro, cinematic close. From sparks to flame, from fear to mastery, humanity had crossed a threshold. The fire was no longer borrowed. It was theirs, a force that would shape every step of their future. Tools, weapons, farms, cities, empires. But in that moment, 1,000,000 years ago, it was simpler. The fire kept them alive. The fire made them human. In Part 4, The Age of Fire, we will see how mastery of flame spread across the world and how it built the foundation for civilization itself. Section 1. Fire spreads across the world. The night no longer belonged to predators. The darkness no longer meant fear. For the first time in history, fire lit the journey of humankind. Tribes moved farther than ever before. Where once the cold forced them back, fire pushed them onward. Where shadows once hid danger, fire revealed the path. Across the African savannas, flames guided the first migrations. Families carried embers wrapped in leaves, glowing like secrets against the wind. Children guarded sparks as though their very lives depended on it, because they did. The fire spread, step by step, camp by camp, across rivers, over mountains, into forests where predators once reigned. With every journey, the world grew smaller, and humanity grew larger. But the fire was not just a companion, it was a conqueror. Wherever humans went, they set the land aflame. Grasslands burned, clearing space for hunting. Forests crackled under intentional firestorms, driving prey into traps. Ash enriched the soil, bringing new plants and game. Unknowingly, humans were reshaping the earth itself. The Age of Fire had begun. Section 2. Fire and the Tribe. At night, around the glow of the hearth, the tribe became more than survivors. They became storytellers. Here, language blossomed. Words sharpened, passed between lips lit by flame. Around the fire, the old taught the young how to hunt, which plants to eat, how to keep the flame alive. Knowledge that once died with each generation now lived on, passed from mouth to mouth, from flame to flame. The fire was the heart of the tribe. It gave warmth, safety, food, and something even greater. It gave belonging. Here the first leaders rose, those who tended the flame, who commanded respect as protectors of light. Here, rituals were born, dances, chants, offerings to the flame, believing it held the spirits of ancestors, the power of gods. For the tribe, fire was not only survival, it was sacred. To lose it was disaster. To control it was destiny. Section 3. Fire as weapon and power. With fire came courage. With courage came ambition. Predators that once ruled the night now fled from human camps. The glowing circle of firelight was a fortress against claws and fangs. But humans learned more than defense. They learned conquest. Hunters drove animals into fiery traps, flames herding them toward waiting spears. They lit torches to blind and terrify prey, turning even the fiercest beasts into victims. The balance of power shifted. The hunter had become the hunted. Against rival tribes, fire was both threat and weapon. Camps raided, shelters burned, enemies scattered in smoke. For the first time, humans discovered not only unity in fire, but destruction. Fire was no longer just survival. It was power, and power always changed the world. Section 4. Fire and the body. Generations passed. Children born into the glow of the hearth grew stronger, sharper, different from their ancestors. Cooked food filled them with energy. Brains grew larger, more capable of thought and memory. Teeth shrank, jaws narrowed, bodies adapted to a life where raw flesh was no longer needed. Fire was not just a tool, it was evolution itself. It carved humanity into something new. It gave time to think, to dream, to imagine. Around the fire, minds awakened. Here, the first art was drawn on cave walls. Shadows flickered against paintings of hunts, of beasts, of gods unknown. The flame turned stone into story. Section 5. Fire becomes civilization. Step by step, fire carried humanity into the future. It lit the caves of Europe, the jungles of Asia, the deserts of the Middle East. It burned in icy tundras where no human should have survived. Everywhere, the flame followed. Everywhere, it changed the land. In time, fire became more than survival. It became invention. Stone hardened into tools beneath the heat. Clay shaped into vessels and pots. Later, metals bent and melted in its roar. Bronze, iron, steel. Each discovery, each spark, brought humanity closer to civilization. The Age of Fire had built the foundations of the world we know today. Cinematic outro. It began with fear. A spark stolen from lightning, a branch burning in trembling hands. But the spark became a flame, the flame became a fire, and the fire became the soul of humanity. From the savannas of Africa to the frozen edges of the earth, fire lit the path. It gave us warmth, food, safety, story, and power. It gave us time to think, to imagine, to dream of gods and futures. It gave us civilization. The Age of Fire was not just survival, it was transformation. And its glow still burns within us today, because to be human is to keep the fire alive.